Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy. This is the Omega Railmaster. And this is actually a brand new piece from Omega. They've had a Railmaster line for a long time. It's one of their sort of core, platforms within their watch world, but it went away for a little while, and they've recently brought it back. And so this has actually only been available for people to buy for the last few weeks, actually. And I want to thank, actually, first off, very much my buddies over at Lewis Jewelers in Ann Arbor, Michigan, for helping me out with this guy. They actually loaned this guy to me for a couple of days just to take a look, to give it the full good, the great, the bad, the ugly. I told them that they were very happy with that. But they've been really helpful here. And if you're looking to pick one of these guys up afterwards, just give them a call. Talk to my buddy DK, tell him Nick sent you. They'll hook you up a little bit, give you some special pricing. So there you go. But anyways, this is a really interesting piece that I've been really curious about, and I'm thrilled to get a chance to check one out. First off, though, let's do some size measurements real quick and do some size comparison. Here this guy is next to a Seamaster 300 Professional from the prior generation there. Here it is against an Aquaterra. Again, this is a prior generation. This is the Quartz model. And here it is against a current generation Seamaster Planet Ocean. And so you can see here, this is actually not a really large watch here. If we hold them up side by side, the Planet Ocean is a little bit ridiculously thick. This one is reasonably proportioned. Actually, let's do a couple of quick measurements real quick, just so you can kind of get a sense here. The side to side with the crown is about 43. Without the crown, we're looking at about 39 inches. So inches, 39 millimeters. That's a difference here. We're looking at about a 20 millimeter band size there. And then the lug to lug distance, which is a really important number for people trying to figure out whether this will fit their wrist well, we're coming in right around 45. And so that means that this wears really well, even on relatively small wrists. And I'm a real big fan of that, because I have relatively small wrists. Then finally, a note on this. This is actually going to be a quick review. This was loaned to me brand new from the factory, but I wasn't able to wear it around or anything like that to give it the full review. I couldn't wear this for a few weeks. But I figured I'd still do the review because, I've gotten to handle one. I've gotten to test it under a couple of different situations. And, this way you still get a look at it. So, anyways, there you go. Let's talk about what's good about this guy and what's not so good about this guy. And we will give some final conclusions. First off, on the good side, the size of this guy is really appealing. Look, watch companies have been making a lot of ginormous freaking watches, and this is a step down from a lot of the Planet Oceans, and Omega themselves included. They've been releasing bigger and bigger watches. Everything's just been getting larger and larger, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of that. As a guy with a relatively small wrist, a nicely sized watch like this is something I'm super grateful for. This is great when a lot of watches just aren't, and so I appreciate that very much. It is still a little bit on the thicker side. Omega has definitely done thinner in the past, but at the same time, I'll take it. In the modern era, I will take it. Next thing, this has a very nice crystal to it. It's a sapphire crystal, and you can see here it's got a very, very subtle dome to it, which just manages reflections very nicely, while at the same time looking good, and it's doubly anti-reflective. That's nice. Next thing, the bracelet on this guy is good, absolutely. You've got yourself a bracelet that's actually reasonably thin. It's not super obtrusive. It bends very nicely. It's soft. It's well finished. Well, soft as it doesn't bite your hand and whatnot. So that's good. It's got screw-down links, which makes the pins a little bit easier to adjust than some. And it's got this little butterfly clasp kind of thing, where on this side it pops out first using this, and then this side is just held in place using a little tiny ceramic bearing that you can see in there, which is kind of a neat little thing. But anyways, that's the bracelet, and it works pretty well. Next thing, on this guy, you can see here that the indices as well as the hands are loomed with a vintage sort of colored loom. The best kind of, I can give it like a custody, maybe, is not like custody dispute, but custody, it looks like frozen custard. But anyways, it's kind of got a custard sort of color to it. And the thing is, it looks nice. Some of the vintage looms that are being run out there, especially by Omega, have this tendency to just kind of look dirty. But this is a really nice color. I think it's got a little bit, it's got notes of copper that don't seem to be capturing really well on the camera here. But it is an attractive color. I'll give you that 100%. The other thing I'll say is that, and it matches the stitching on the strap version, because this does also come with a strap that's very, very nice as well. You can get it with a strap, that is. This one is just bracelet. But the nice thing about it is that the loom on this is actually quite good still. I'm going to use a big old flashlight right here off camera and charge the loom up for you so you can get a sense of what's going on. But basically, this is some pretty beefy loom here. I'll kind of cover the camera. Take a look at that. Holy crap, is that luminous? I mean, they have used some pretty serious lumen. Actually, with some longer-term tests, it has pretty substantial staying power. The lume on this guy is someplace between the Planet Ocean, which has just, oh my god, incredible lume, and the Seamaster 300, which is a, prior generation. This is really, really good lume. I have no doubt that this would be legible all night long, and the fact that you've got these indices kind of shaped as they are means it's ultra legible. It's just great in that way. And so I love the fact that they've really bothered to put great lume on this watch when they absolutely could have afforded not to. And so, actually, not at this price point. I would have complained about it, but a lot of companies aren't doing that. So thank you for that, at least, Omega. Next thing, although I can't show it to you because this has a solid case back, although unfortunately got the sticker on there and everything, but this is this has the Omega 8806 coaxial movement. This is a master chronometer, as you can see down there on the bottom there. And what that means is that this is certified by the Metis folks. It is robust to magnetism, up to 15,000 Gauss. That's about that's basically an MRI machine worth of magnetism there. Don't wear this into the MRI. It'll come flying off your wrist across the room and such, but it's resistant to it, and it's guaranteed to run between 0 and 5 seconds a day fast. That is the range, and that's a great thing because you want a wristwatch, especially at this price, to be really accurate. The other thing I'll highlight about the movement, although it's a relatively straightforward movement in a lot of ways, it has got the coaxial escapement, which is nice, longer service intervals and whatnot, and it has a 55-hour power reserve, which is pretty respectable, so that's good. Next thing, speaking of robustness, this is a 150 meter water resistant case. That is really, really nice. I'm a big fan of that. You can see, says right down there. Yeah, pop this loose. Just a second there. Yeah, 150 meters right down at the bottom there. That's something that's always good to know. Do you need 150 meters on this watch? No, probably not, but it's a good amount of water resistance. Means you never have to think about water. And even as the seals age and whatnot, you're going to be just fine. So that's good. Next thing, this is a nice standard lug width, 20 millimeters, takes a bracelet, which comes on, or a strap. One thing to note, though, is the cost of the bracelet on this guy. It is only $100 more to buy this watch with the bracelet than with their cloth strap. And so you should buy it with the bracelet because it'll cost you way more to buy the bracelet down the road. Might as well just do it right first time and then you can put other straps on. It does look great on cloth or leather though. That's for damn sure. Next thing, this is a fully brushed watch. What I mean by that is that aside from the surface of the screws, which are just kind of a different flavor of brushed, every surface on this watch is a brushed surface. There is no high polishing really anywhere on this, just various surfaces of brushing. And you know what? I like that in a bunch of ways. First off, it comes off maybe a little less ostentatious and sparkly than, for instance, the Planet Ocean does here. Full brushing is a great thing. It also means that although it'll scratch, certainly it won't take them as easily, and they're very easy to remove. Any good jeweler can brush those right back out, and that's nice. And I gotta say, the dial, especially around the bezel here, this is really nicely done brushing on the rehout and everything. They're really good at using various kind of degrees of brushing to give it a really great look to it. So I appreciate that very much. Speaking of the look, you've got some really nice details going on here, and I'll zoom you in a little bit so you can see that a little bit better. To start with, you can see you've got a little bit of the bullseye thing going on. I'm sorry, not the bullseye, the crosshairs going on the dial here, which is a nice little callback to the Railmaster's past. The handset on this guy is different from any of the other Omegas out there. Well, actually, I guess it's kind of similar to some of the Speedies, but, nonetheless, it's a different handset. It's not the same handset as on the Planet Ocean or on the Seamaster Pro or any of those kinds of things. This is nice. I appreciate that very much. Speaking of these hands, take a look at the hands. They are very nicely brushed. They are brushed, but they're not in the same sense as these guys are here. They give you a bit of reflectivity, which means that you still have very nice low-light readability. If you can just find any light in the room, for instance, as I'm doing right here, you can still read the watch very easily. And you can see that lume still going there. Because of that brushing, but it is not high gloss, which I think would look a little out of place on this. So that's a nice little detail there. The case is nicely contoured with little slopes coming into there, which is good. The bracelet being nice and thin. The crown still has the Omega on there, as well as a little bit of protrusion there. No crown guards on this guy. And you know, this is really nicely done. And then on the back of it here on the clasp, you can see they've done a really nice engraving with the Omega. They've got the nice little hippocampus in the back here, because this is technically in their Seamaster lineup, which, Okay, whatever, Omega. I believe you. But so that's really nice. And overall, this watch has a bunch of really nice little details to it. I also like the fact that this is clearly a vintage-inspired watch. That's kind of the thing lately. A lot of companies are making vintagey watches, but this is one that's not like cloyingly vintage. Some of the reissues just feel like, okay, we get it. You look like you're from the 50s. We got it. Thank you. But this feels like it could also have a place in modern society. This is a watch that you're buying in 2018, but also looks like it's got some throwback. So it's a throwback, but it's not like a dredged from the freaking ocean. Well, I guess dredged from the rail yard, maybe? And that's nice. Then finally, on the good side, actually not quite finally, but still, this dial is spectacular because you can see here it's got this beautiful brushed texture to it. It's not like you get sunburst dial, that kind of thing. It's not like the wave dial. It's just got this very nice texturing to it, which is absolutely, you can't see it from many angles, but then when you do catch a little bit of it, it's really nice. And it has the effect of making this watch just feel, frankly, just a lot nicer, a lot higher end than some of the other matte plastic dials that Omega's put on there. The Seamaster 300 dial, not the professional, mind you, but the 300 really left me a little bit cold. It was just kind of matte plastic, whereas this guy feels like a high-end dial. It just happens to be this brushed metal sort of thing. And it also changes color. This is really hard to express, but I'm going to see if I can use a little bit of a high CRI light here to get you a little bit of different color change on here. Maybe it's going to work, maybe it's not, but you really kind of do, in some senses it looks very gray, in other cases it looks a little bit coppery almost. It's a beautiful dial. I love that, and taking this out of the store and into the world, I could see that more beautifully, and that's something I liked very much. Then finally, on the good side, honestly, I like the fact that this watch is pretty minimalist. It is a very clean watch. It's brushed. It's simple. There's not that much going on here, but what's going on here is beautifully done. And a simple thing done well is something I always just frankly love, and this is a nice example of that. And so that, to me, all of that is the good. It's a minimal and clean. It's a very brushed dial here, which is just gorgeous. It's a vintage-inspired watch, but isn't like, oh, a vintage, super, like, cloying-like. It's got really nice details. The brushed case is great. Nice strap interchangeability there, water resistance, anti-magnetic, nice coaxial caliber, chronometer grade, very, very nice lume for actually reading the watch at night. It's got the nice lume color, good bracelet, good dome sapphire, and a really nice size. To me, though, on the bad side, there are some issues here. First off, there is no date on this watch unless it happens to be the 12th, the 3rd, the 6th, or the 9th, in which case the date's on the watch, but that's not exactly what you're after. That's something that would keep this guy off my wrist. If this guy had a really subtle date, like hidden down here, oh, this would be really, really tempting. But that's what's blocking me on this guy. Next thing, this dial is entirely flat. There are nothing applied to it at all. Everything that's on this dial is paint. Although it looks like the lume is kind of poured into cutouts in the dial there. But as a result, this has a couple of things. First off, it means that it can be very low contrast in a lot of situations. I'm going to try and simulate that by getting you have to be oblique to certain. There we go. That's close enough. But you can kind of see that it's very easy for the indices to disappear in the overall shine of this dial, and that's just not great. And actually, that's the thing that's kind of most noticeable. I asked the fiance, who looks at a lot of watches, just being with a fiancé to me, and she said, "Wow, why is there nothing but paint on the dial? Shouldn't they have something on there?" As opposed to a watch like this guy, which has actual applied metal indices and whatnot. It's a little bit of a strange thing, honestly. The other issue is, like I said, there's a visibility thing here. Because at some angles, and especially when you've got a really large light source like a window, you can look down and just not see what time it is, or at least all you see are the hands. And that's really something I'm not a big fan of. Applied indices do offer more than just snob value, and especially for low light readability, it's a great thing. Next thing, this is a non-adjustable bracelet. I mean, you can add and remove links. In fact, you can see they include 2 different half links here, which is good. That gives you a lot of adjustability. But at the end of the day, it is just a butterfly clasp. There's nothing else you can do. You can't get like an instant quick link or anything like that. It doesn't have Omega's adjustable clasp where you can push something in and get more. I mean, and I got to be honest with you guys, it's $5 grand. You need to be offering something. That's a major comfort thing. Every time that they quick adjust bracelet is made, a Swiss angel gets its wings, and they haven't given the angel these wings. Come on, guys, that's a little problematic. Then finally, on the bad side, this is pretty expensive. At $5 grand, this is a lot of freaking money, and in fact, it's only $500 cheaper than the Aquaterra, which is a very similar case size, but includes full applied indices, things like that. Similar movements. It's a really, really pricey watch, and let's be real here. A big part of that is this little Omega symbol right there. This watch would be half the price with any other Greek letter on that, and the secondary market knows that. That's a simple fact of life. If you buy one of these guys and then you try and sell it, you're going to get a lot less than you paid. This means that Omega's pricing team just needs to calm it way down. I mean, I'm sorry, guys, no. Omega is really ratcheting them up, and they need to ratchet them back down because they've hit the limit here. What this means, though, is that you just need to not pay retail for this watch. If you walk into an Omega boutique, they will charge you $5 grand. You should not pay $5 grand. You should talk to an authorized distributor who can help you out on the price. Heck, my buddy DK over at Lewis can absolutely help you out a little bit there. But you just shouldn't pay the full price because that's a lot of freaking money for this watch, especially compared to the competition. So to me, at least, that's what's bad here, is that this is very, very expensive. It has a non-adjustable bracelet in 2018. Come on, Omega. We know you can do better than this. It's got a flat dial, which can really be low contrast in a lot of lights here. There's nothing applied on the dial at all, not even just like a little Omega symbol or something on there. And there's no date feature on here, which is really sad for me, but I'm a date kind of guy. Final conclusions-wise, actually, I've been tearing it apart, but I like this watch a lot more than I expected to. And in real life, much more than I did in the store. I mean, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this, why I think it's worthwhile for me to do these load of things, not only so I can use my own studio and whatnot, and I'm not sitting there in the, in the middle of a jewelry store trying to film, but also because, store lighting is good, but a watch can be way better or worse looking in other conditions. Just in the store, this dial looks okay, but once you see it in the sunlight, it can take on a very different hue. Similarly, you can never test lume and things like that, and so getting this out of the store and into the world, it looks a lot better, and frankly, it looks a lot better than in pictures. Handling this, seeing it on the wrist, really looking at it carefully, it is just really, really clean. And I like that. It is a minimal watch. It's kind of a no-nonsense design here. Just here to tell the time, sir, that kind of thing. And you know what? It is really simple and done well because the brushing is really great. The details that are there are really excellent. The movement, these Omega coaxial movements are incredible. I have fallen head over heels in love with the movement in this guy, and this one isn't so far off. And you know what? The dial on this guy really does look great. I love this dial a lot. This is a great texture, a great material. It's beautiful. And so then the other thing is this is very consistent. This watch has a style and it sticks to it. The Seamaster 300, I hate to keep beating up on it, but the thing is it had this weird thing where it had this kind of ostentatious case with polished Senate links on there and a lot of polishing, those kinds of things. Yet at the same time, the dial was just like this matte black plastic thing. And, this is at least very, very true to itself. I mean, it is simple, minimal throughout, and that's really great. And as a result of all of those things, the no-nonsense design, the simple thing done well factor, I found myself way more fond of this watch than I thought I would be. And if this had a date feature, I would be asking myself some really awkward questions right now. It's probably my favorite in the Aquaterra lineup, if you want to call this an Aquaterra at all. Sure, I have my problems. I'd love to see something applied on this dial. And, I got to be honest, there's got to be some way to spot these hour markers at an angle. I mean, even if they raise them up a little hint, I don't know. And we need to be done with non-adjustable bracelets. Come on, Omega, seriously. But the thing is, this guy really only has one major problem, and that is, to me, the price. I mean, Omega's pricing, like I said, is just not super realistic. $5 grand for a 3-hand, no-date, brushed, and painted dial watch is just really up there. And it makes it kind of hard to recommend this guy with a straight face because your $5K can go a lot further with another brand. I mean, you are only $1,500 away from a Rolex Explorer right now in this watch, and that's That's a big difference in a bunch of different ways. Omega is not Rolex, as much as Omega wants to be there, and I love Omega, don't get me wrong. This is a watch that I own, but still. But if you're willing to go elsewhere, you can get a Tudor Pelagos for $4,400 retail. Tudor Black Bay 39 is $3,250 retail. Monte Triumph is a beautiful watch that's beautifully finished and is only $1,500 or so. And I mean, heck, if you just want something subtle, you can do so much cheaper. But, if money's not a problem, though, or if you can get a really good AD to help you out, there is a lot to love about this guy, and there is a lot of temptation here. I found myself just looking down at it on the desk as I'm doing this review, just like, damn, that's a pretty watch. And so ultimately, that's kind of my feeling. It is a great watch. It is a simple thing done well, and if you're able to get one at the right price, then you really can't rail too hard against this guy's shortcomings. Yeah, I think you're really on track. You pick one of these guys up? Okay. Anyways, I hope this has been interesting, that I conducted this review well, and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.